so purified, they are like uh, places of pilgrimage. What is places of pilgrimage? So, for example, when you go to Vrindavan, when you go to Puri, or when you go places of Ganges, like Haridwar or Dwarka. So they're saying these places are purified, but you as a person, Bhagavatas, devotees, you're also purified like that. That is the meaning. That means these tirthas, they carry Hari Bhakti in them. That means these devotees also carry Hari Bhakti in them, in their heart. Okay? So now what you do? Now let's look at that's a Tirtha Bhuta Swayam Vibhu. That means you are also, like how the holy places carry Hari Bhakti in them, you're also carrying Hari Bhakti in your heart. And what do? You travel to many places. And what do? You give that Hari Bhakti, like Mother Ganges. What she do? Ganges has the longest journey in her travel. But while she travels, she purifies the whole places. And whoever takes bath in the Ganges, there's a great chance that they get Hari Bhakti. Like that, you're also personified, means human being who's carrying that bhakti in your heart and giving it to people. Okay. Now he says, Titi Kurvanti Tirtani. Now let's look at the meaning of this. He says, powerful one make into holy place of pilgrimage. Tirtani means holy places. So what they do is they not only travel, but they also give or convert or change places which are bereft of Lord Bhakti into Bhakti of Lord. So this refers to a pure Vaishnava, pure devotees of Godhead, pure devotees of their Godhead. They are able to give the Hari Bhakti. That is the meaning of here. And what do? You may go to an ordinary place, which is atheistic in philosophy, atheistic in their consciousness, but you turn them into God consciousness personality, right? So look at this. America was full of hippies. America was full of drug culture and liquor culture, women culture. Now what Prabhupada did? He went to America, he turned America. Right? So look at him. He is a carrier of Hari in his heart, and then he's going to this place. Now Yudhishthira is telling Vidura, you're also like that. And what do? You turn everything into place of pilgrimage. Okay? So you can easily relate these meanings and you can remember the sloka. Okay? Shailaja Mataji helps you?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank
So
you.
henceforth you will practice? Henceforth you can practice, Mataji?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, very nice. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, now let's go to 11th sloka of this chapter 13. So far now, what has happened? Vidura has come and Yudhishthira Maharaj has received him very nicely and he is glorified Vidura. And he's telling what sort of person you are. Right? Why? Because when Vidura went on a pilgrimage, because after he was chastised from Hastinapur, he went, of course, I'm making the story short now, I'm not going to repeat. He met Maitreya Rishi. Now, in the conversation, Maitreya Rishi, what did he hear? He heard glories and pastimes of Lord Krishna. And what all the glories he heard? He heard the entire Canto 3 and Canto 4, right? Almost 60 chapters that he heard. Now watch carefully. While he heard from him, what did he hear in chapter 3 and chapter 4? In chapter 3 is about Lord Brahma's creation, right? So Brahma created, and in chapter 3 and 4, it talks about wonderful personalities, right? It basically talks about Swayambhu Manu and his 5 children, three female child and 2 male child. Who are the 3 female child?
Devahuti, Ahuti.
Ahuti, Prahuti. Okay. Then 2 male. Who are the 2 male?
Pada
and Priyavarta. Correct. So Priyavarta's story comes in Canto 5, so that he did not hear, but he heard the 4. Who? Uttanapada, Devahuti, Ahuti, and Prahuti. Right? So that way he heard their stories. Now look at the stories. In Devahuti pastime, what do we hear? We hear the Kardamuni.
We have done prayers, Prabhu.
Yeah, we've done, no?
You've done.
Yes, Prabhu.
What happened to you, Mataji?
I thought I didn't listen to your prayers. Sorry, Prabhu. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. So, Devahuti, we heard the pastimes of Kardama, right? Now, what did Kardama do? He retired after his household life. Okay, and we saw many. King Priyavarta, he retired after household life. Prithu Maharaj, he retired after household life. We saw many of these pastimes. Bharata Maharaj, he retired after household life. Dhruva Maharaj, he retired after household life. Like that, we saw many devotees. What they did during their young age, they learned. During their life of a Grahastha life or as a king, as a responsible personality, they executed their duties. And once they came to a stage after executing the duties, they retired from their family life. And what did they do after retirement? They spent time in God consciousness. They went to places of pilgrimage to purify themselves. They spent time in God consciousness. They purified their heart and went back home, back to Godhead. Right? So this is the basis that you have to understand now. Now we'll come back to the story of Vidura. So how this story is connected to Vidura is what we are going to see now in the subsequent slokas. Okay? Now, because Vidura went to these places of pilgrimage and he heard these pastimes from Maitreya Rishi, Vidura's consciousness changed. Oh my God, this is the value of life. This is what you're supposed to do. And how Kala has taken the whole thing away from me. He realizes after his conversation with Maitreya Rishi, and what does he do? He returns back to Hastinapur. Now, when he returns back to Hastinapur, he is no more the old Vidura. In the previous case of Vidura had Shastric knowledge, but did not have realized knowledge. He had not heard Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Vidura was more about telling, Yudhishthir or Dhritarashtra or Duryodhana or anyone for that matter, the subject matter of dharma. But he did not talk about the subject matter of devotion. Now, he is a realized soul. He's come back. Now, when he's come back as a realized soul, the Paramatma also in the heart of Vidura is revealing to others that this is not an ordinary person. Now, the same Yudhishthir is making this statement with Vidura and receiving him accordingly. Right? So, that is a change. So, now what we shall do, we'll continue to recite Sloka 11. Apina suhrdastata bandhava Krishna devata drishta shruta va yadava swapuryam sukham asate. Now, Yudhishthira Maharaj is inquiring about many things. He first inquired about his welfare. Second, he went and inquired about what all places you visit, then who all personalities you met, and then what all deities that you saw there, worship and things like that. What all Punya Kshetra you visited, and then, you took their mercy. Like that he visited, he asked all those questions. Then, Yudhishthira is very much interested in one particular question. What is this question? As you visited many holy places, you should have also visited Dwaraka because that's also a great holy place. If Dwaraka is also a holy place, now the question is, how are the Yadavas? He says, Bandhava Krishna Devata. Bandhavas means friends and relatives. Of who? Of Krishna. Who are they? Yadavas. So the community of Yadavas, how are they? Now he is not asking Krishna directly now. He is coming to that point because he is really interested or the most interested in the worship or inquiry about Lord Krishna. So he's asking, how are our relatives, the Yadavas? How are they doing good? And look at his question. He's asking, Drishta Shrutava Yadava. Now look at what is Drishta. By seeing them or by hearing about them, the Yadavas descendant. So he says it is important when we hear about the welfare of them, it nourishes our heart. Why? Because they can serve the Lord very diligently. Right? So when the Yadavas are intact, their service to Lord Krishna will also be undisturbed. And that is the most important thing, is what Yudhishthira is inquiring. So now let's look at the translation. My uncle, you must have visited Dwaraka. In that holy place are our friends and well-wishers, the descendants of Yadu. You're always wrapped in service of Lord Krishna. They're always wrapped in service of Lord Krishna. You might have seen them or heard about them, and they're all living happily in their abodes. So now he is specifically inquiring about Krishna, but he is inquiring in an indirect manner. That means he is first asking the welfare of Yadavas. If the Yadavas are well situated, what happens? Their service to Krishna also will be wonderful. right? The particular word Krishna Devata, those who are always wrapped in service of Lord Krishna is significant. This is the meaning of Krishna Devata. So among devotees, are you in service of Krishna? What sort of service you do? Now here service refers to not doing some work. Service refers to delivering our consciousness for the pleasure of the Lord through a mechanism. That's what service means. So for example, now let's say I am, doing a garland for the Lord. Now there is two ways that you can do the garland for the Lord. One way is, oh, I'm an expert, so I'll do garland. I'm better than others. Okay. Another way is, no, I do this because I enjoy it. I enjoy making garlands. Yeah, but these are not, the best of the consciousness, because they're all mixed consciousness. What's a pure consciousness would do? Whether I know the subject matter or not, whether I like it or not, I want to do this as service to my Lord. That is the perfect consciousness. So, when all our services are directed for the pleasure of the Lord, that becomes perfect in service. That's why here Prabhupada writes, who are always wrapped in the service of Lord Krishna. So the service is full of attention, and they're always enthusiastic and they're ready to serve. So this is the mood of the Yadavas, and that's the question he's asking. Right? Now let's read further. Vidura left home in order to devote himself completely to the service of the Lord, but the Pandavas and Yadavas were always wrapped in thought of Krishna. Thus, there is no difference in pure devotional qualities, either remaining at home or leaving home. The real qualification of pure devotee is to become wrapped in thought of Krishna favorably. So now, the thought here is, it is not that only sannyasis can be wrapped in thoughts and service of Krishna, even grihasthas for that matter, for anyone for that matter, right? If your service is about remembering Krishna in a favorable manner, that service is perfect. If that service is not about remembering Krishna in a favorable manner, that service is imperfect. So, Srila Prabhupada takes example of Kamsa, Jarasandha, Shishupala, and other demons like them were also wrapped in thought of Lord. For example, Jarasandha, he was so angry that his son-in-law Kamsa was killed. So Jarasandha fought 17 times to kill Krishna, right? And all 17 times he got defeated. Now look at his thought. He's always thinking about Krishna. How do I kill him? How do I kill him? Kamsa, for that matter, how do I kill him? Shishupala was always thinking how to curse and lower the position of Krishna. So that's what their consciousness was. So they were also wrapped in their consciousness, but it was unfavorable. That's what Prabhupada says. Now here, Prabhupada concludes. Look at this paragraph. Very brilliant it is. Right? He says, Maharaj Yudhishthir was also wrapped in thought of Lord Krishna and his associates at Dwarka. Otherwise, he could have not asked this question from Vidura. So now what does this mean is, the position of Maharaj Yudhishthir was very high. It says, Prabhupada even says he was in the same level of devotion as Vidura, and also engaged in state affairs and maintaining the kingdom of this world. So what does this mean is, even though Yudhishthir was a grihastha, even though he was a king, he ensured that he did his duties, but in his consciousness in service of the Lord. He never did anything for himself. He never did anything for his self-glory. That is the position of a pure devotee. So hence Prabhupada concludes the position of Maharaj Yudhishthira and his consciousness. Is this clear?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, let's go to the next sloka. 12. Iti yukto dharma rajena sarvam tat samavarnayat yatanubhutam kramaso vina yadu kulashayam. Translation. Thus being questioned by Maharaj Yudhishthir, Mahatma, now Vidura is now no more called ordinary person. He is called Mahatma Vidura. Mahatmanastu mam partha daivim prakriti mashrita. Right? So, person who has reached the highest of devotion, he is like Daiva. Gradually described everything had person like, except the news of annihilation of Yadu dynasty. So we heard in that story that Lord Krishna, what did he do? When he descended, many devotees, his disciples, they descended along with him from the Goloka planets. Now, apart from that, many Ihadevatas, they also descended from their material, different planetary position systems. From there, they descended and to play the pastimes with the Lord. So, the Yadus were a combination of Nitya Siddhas and Sadhana Siddhas, right? Nitya Siddhas are who descended from the Vaikuntha planets. And other set of devotees are associates or descendants of this demigods from various planets who are working under the direction and instruction of Brahmaji. Okay. So now, or Indra. So now what the Krishna did? Krishna said, okay, pastime's all over now. Time is ready that we have to depart. So Krishna, along with the other sadhana Nitya Siddhas, they went back to the spiritual world. But these, Yadavas who are, demigods descended, they have to go back to the demigod position. And then they will go through Brahmaji and then return back home, back to God. Okay, so there's an opportunity for them to purify themselves. So what Krishna did, he took all the Yadavas to the Prabhaka Kshetra, and then, the story of the Cains, and then they took all the Cains and bait themselves and killed themselves, and they all died. Right? So that's how the Yadu dynasty completely got annihilated. Krishna left back, Balramji went back, all his close associates went back, his chariot went back, his charioteer also went back, his Sudarshan Chakra went back, everything went back. But only person left was Uddhava. Right? He had this mission and he carried on his mission. Right? Now, the key point here to understand is Vidura spoke about everything in his travel, in his pilgrimage, yatra, but he never talked about the annihilation of Yadu dynasty. So now we will see why he hid that information. Okay, 13.13. Nanva apriyam durvishaham nirnam swayam upastitam navedayat sakarno dukitam drashtum akshamaha. Translation. Compassionate Mahatma Vidura could not stand to see the Pandavas distressed at any time. Therefore, did not disclose the unpalatable and unbearable incident because calamities come on their own accord. Right? Look at the consciousness of Vidura. Vidura is like when time is, fully ripe, it cannot be avoided further. Yes, that time this unpalatable news can be told. Right? Otherwise, it should not be just like all bad news should not be just like they're told to disturb the consciousness of people. Right? Now, today you see in Kali Yuga how degraded we are. You open any news channels, there's always on bottom line which is breaking news. Right? You hear a news channel for 1 hour or 10 hours, you will see only all bad news. This fight, this rape, this cheating, this theft, this political instability, this war, all these things are being discussed. They do not discuss pleasant things at all. So, in Kali Yuga, people take pleasure in first giving unpalatable news all the time. Unpalatable news and causing anxiety in the hearts of living entities. Right? In fact, if I remember those days, in the earlier days also, when someone dies also, they won't tell it immediately. They will tell to the senior most person, and then slowly and nicely the news will descend to the younger people. That way, their preparation is all there to accept the fact. Right? So all this culture is now, you see, in Kali Yuga is getting degraded. Right? First, break the unpalatable news. No, what a Vedic Shastra tells. Living entities should not be put in anxiety or distress. So you always talk about the palatable news, and unpalatable news must be, must be presented in such a way that the living entities can accept it. Right? This is Vedic system. Vedic system is no more proper. There is no compassionate or things like that. And now here Vidura was very compassionate. Why he was compassionate? He knew that the Pandavas were so close and dear to Krishna. If they come to know about the Yadavas, the Pandavas will be shaken up completely. So he did not want to talk about that. So hence, he hid the news of the Yadava community annihilation to Yudhishthir, even though he asked specific questions about it, but he talked about every other things. Right? So you can understand how one should speak, how one should behave in dealing with situations. Right? In our devotee care community, right, when we care for devotees, when we have certain one-on-one sessions, we are supposed to talk about how the devotee can progress in devotion life. Now, while we talk about various aspects of progress in devotion life, there could be some events or some feedback that this devotee misbehaved or did something wrong and caused difficulties. So, a matured mentor, he will give that news in such a manner that the person who's receiving it or the mentee will digest it so easily. The objective is not to hit him. The objective is to transform him. And that should be the role of a mentor. So the mentor must be very pleasant in dealing with the mentee. So this is all, where does it come from? It comes from Shastric injunction. It is called as Niti Shastra. Niti Shastra means civic sense or the laws of civics. Now, earlier in our schooling, I remember we used to have moral science, we used to have civics, we used to have history. In civics, we learned many of these things. Now I'm seeing my children's subject matter books. Civics is not at all emphasized properly. Moral science, many of the schools don't have that subject only. See, these are all, societies which are not realizing the value of it. Okay, now let's look at the next sloka, 13.14. Kanchit kalam atavatsit satkruto devavat Bhratu jestasya shreyaskrit sarvesham sukham avaham. Translation. Thus Mahatma Vidura, being treated just like a godly person by his kingsmen, remained there for a certain period just to rectify the mentality of his elder brother. And in this way brings happiness to all others. Okay, so now we got the objective of Vidura returning back. Vidura returned back to Hastinapur just for one reason, to rectify the consciousness of his elder brother. Who's his elder brother? Dhritarashtra. And what was Dhritarashtra's problem? Dhritarashtra, even though he was the king of Hastinapur, when the Kauravas ruled, when the Kauravas died, all the 100 sons died, when they were defeated in the war, Dhritarashtra should have left the throne. Even though he was not killed, he should have left the throne and gone into pilgrimage, and gone into search of truth, absolute truth. But he did not do that. He was so attached to his family. He was so attached to his kingdom. He was so attached to the comforts and aspects of life in the kingdom. And he remained like a dog, consuming all of those. So, what is the understanding is, after Grihastha life, we took the examples. In the third canto and fourth canto, which Vidura heard from Maitreya, we took many examples of retirement. Now, what in retirement they do? They took up only one thing called austerity. And what in austerity they did? They tried to become self-realized souls. They realized the Supreme Lord in their lives, and then they practiced devotion to the best possible extent. That is the real transformation of one's life. If one cannot do that, then the whole purpose of this life is lost. Now we will see Krishna explaining Kala. Kala in many, many ways. And Vidura. And Vidura is telling how Kala is powerful. So we'll read that also now in some aspects. Right? So Vidura got inspired from Maitreya Rishi that, life of every great personality is to do their duties and retire from the duty and spend their life in self-realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. realize the relationship with the Supreme Person and perfect one's life. But he saw that his brother completely deviated. So hence what did he do? He decided to come back to Hastinapur just to save his brother. Right? Now, from Vidura's point of view, he was already accepted a renowned sort of life. And he did not have any more requirement to enjoy this palace and then this comfortable life and things like that. Okay? So he spent his life, the later part of the life, in helping souls to realize the later part of the life. And hence, that was the mission of Vidura. Right? Which is also the mission given by Srila Prabhupada to us. This is what we are supposed to do in our life. Okay? So that's what this sloka is about. And let's read more further. Okay, 13.15. And okay, there's another nice paragraph that needs to be learned. So let's read this highlight. I want to read this highlight. Okay, and this one also. It's a very beautiful highlight. Okay. So someone read the green.
Yes, Prabhu. Vidura particularly came to enlighten Dhritarashtra and to give him a lift to the higher status of spiritual cognition. It is the duty of enlightened souls to deliver the fallen ones, and Vidura came for that reason. But talks of spiritual enlightenment are so refreshing that while instructing Dhritarashtra, Vidura attracted the attention of all the members of the family, and all of them took pleasure in hearing him patiently. This is the way of spiritual realization. The message should be heard attentively, and if spoken by a realized soul, it will act on the dormant heart of the conditioned soul. And by continuously hearing, one can attain the perfect stage of self-realization. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so now look at it. Spiritual talks are always attractive. It attracted the attention of everyone in the kingdom. Okay, so that's an important point to note here. And Prabhupada is also saying that when you hear such topics, you should hear them very patiently and attentively. So what does attentively means? Attentively means you should lose your consciousness in the external world, but you should have your consciousness fully devoted on what the speaker is speaking. That is called attentively. When you hear attentively, you will apply all those principles on your own life, just like how you see a mirror. Right? This is called good consciousness. What is called bad consciousness? When we hear such message, what we do? We don't apply on us, we apply on others. See, this person's like that. See, that person's like that. That's a poor consciousness. Right? Let me repeat, a good consciousness is to when we hear the message of Srimad Bhagavatam attentively, we apply and reflect on ourselves, our life, what I'm supposed to do, how I'm going to better myself. Every statement in Srimad Bhagavatam is only meant for me. And that is good consciousness. Once we think that, oh, this statement is for that person, he troubles like this, for this person, he troubles like this, then that's poor consciousness. Okay, so that's called attentively hearing. What is patiently hearing? Patiently hearing means spiritual enlightenment will take its own course and take its own time and pace. You cannot rush through. You have to give it its time. If you don't give it its time, you are not going to realize the facts and the virtuosity in the statement. God consciousness will never manifest. So, you have to give it the time. For example, if I have to read Srimad Bhagavatam today for 2 hours, and 2 hours I can finish 1 to 2 chapters also, or I can just finish 3-4 slokas. The difference is, one is realizing and try to understand what Prabhupada is trying to tell him and reflect on him to make himself better and better. And when that can be done, when one applies patience in practicing Shravanam and Kirtanam. That's what these two things are important. And this is called way of spiritual realization. Now, okay, good. I want to hear attentively. I want to hear patiently. But from whom should I hear? I should hear from realized souls. I should hear from devotees who are practicing day in, day out. I should not hear from Tom, Dick, and Harry. I should not hear from junior personalities because they will not be realization factors. When I hear from realized souls, the Krishna Bhakti which is sleeping in my heart will get awakened. Oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. Let me go practice. And he'll start practicing chanting or 5 Angas of Bhakti. He will do it very nicely. And how long we should do? Continuously hearing or continuously doing this act, one will reach a stage of perfect self-realization. That means self-realization is not a switch. I did this, okay, I'm perfect tomorrow. It is impossible. It will happen through consistent, continuous practice over a period of time. Your heart will transform. And that's the point mentioned here. Okay? Let's read further. 13.15. Abhibrat agyama yatavat agakarishu yavad dadarasudratvam sapadvarsha satam yamaha. Now it is talking about the story of Yamaraj here. Okay, let's look at the story of Yamaraj. Translation. As long as Vidura played the part of a Sudra being cursed by Manduka Muni, Aryama officiated the post of Yamaraj to punish those who committed sinful acts. Okay, so what is the role of Yamaraj? Now, this is something very important that we want to discuss. Now, what is the role of Yamaraj? Now, there are two stories which are linked, and now we have to understand how these getting linked and what is actually happening in Yamaraj's life. Yamaraj himself is a Mahajan, right? Completely self-realized, and he conducts himself as a perfect Vaishnava. Now, but what is the job given by Lord Krishna to him? He did not give a job where you be in my temple and do deity worship and always see him, wash my lotus feet. He did not give all those things. He told him, there are many people who perform sins in this world and they need to be punished. So I'm going to create a place called Yamalok, and you will be the king of Yamalok. You be there, punish all the souls. And what sort of punishment? If someone comes, okay, Chitragupta will read his punishment and then he will read and then say, okay, fry him in oil for 10,000 years. Okay, poke him with needles so that he suffers like this. No, that is the punishment how he has to avoid. But he's completely detached. He does this as a matter of duty because the Lord has instructed him. He will not have either vengeance or anything like that. He'll just do as duty. But he also has lots of compassion that he doesn't want the living entity to come back to Yamalok again. And that is his prayer. Right? Now, this Yamaraj got into a situation. Now, let's see what that situation is going to be. Now, we talked about life of Yamaraj. Now, we'll see what situation he got into. There was a Muni by name Manduka Muni. Now, he was in his ashram performing his meditation, and he was a great saint. Now, one day, many of these dacoits, what they did, they performed some crime, and then the soldiers or the police were chasing them. So they came and had hid in the ashram of Manduka Muni, and he didn't even notice that they were there. So the soldiers came in, and they somehow they caught all these, people who committed crime, hiding in the ashram of Manduka Muni. Now, what they did, while they arrested them, they also arrested Manduka Muni, thinking that he is also part of the crime. Manduka Muni did not resist or do anything. He accepted everything as an act of providence. Then later on, what happened? Of course, there are many levels, right? These soldiers may have some reporting officer or something like that. And then he may not know everything about Manduka Muni. He saw him as a criminal. So he awarded the punishment straight away. What punishment? He said that you have to take a piercing rod, a small rod, it's a long rod, but a thin rod. They have to push that rod through the anus and get him out of the mouth. That is the punishment to all these crime people. Now, Manduka Muni was also awarded the same punishment. But somehow, by the arrangement of the Lord, this news came to the king. So king, coming to know, he rushed to the scene and then he stopped the punishment being awarded to Mandakumani. Right? And he pleaded mercy. He asked him to pardon, saying that some mistake has happened. So he pleaded. But Mandakumani was not upset on the king, but immediately he went to Yamaraj. And he asked him, for no crime of mine, how come I've been awarded such a punishment? Though I did not suffer the punishment by the mercy of the Lord, I did not suffer, but I was awarded almost about to suffer. So Yamaraj said that while you were a small boy, you took a nail or a sharp object and pricked the body of an ant. So in order to do that, I awarded that punishment. So Mandakumani's argument is that anything done out of innocence or ignorance cannot be awarded that punishment. Right? So when that was spoken, Yamaraj realized that, and Mandakumani cursed him to become a Sudra. Now look at it. Vaishnava's mercy is always great. Right? We saw that even in Damodara Leela, that Vaishnava's curse on the two personalities was great. Now the same thing, Mandakumani's curse on Vidura was also great. How? When Mandakumani cursed Vidura, he was born to a Sudra mother, and he also became a Sudra. Now, even though he was in the palace, right? Even though he was a guide to many people, no one heard him. He was just doing his duty, but he was continuously getting chastised. No respect for him at all, nothing. And even though he was such a good consciousness person, he always looked at the welfare of the people, welfare of the Pandavas. He protected them so much. But he was chastised by the Kauravas very badly. In fact, in the last event, when he was thrown out of Hastinapur, what did Duryodhana told him? Okay, since you have done all this work for Hastinapur, I just spare the air in your nostrils. That means what? I'll just spare your life, otherwise get out, otherwise I'll kill you off. So he threw him out. Now what happened once he was thrown out? He met Maitreyi and he was able to hear Bhagavatam 2 cantos. Of course, there are 12 cantos of Bhagavatam. At least he heard 2 cantos, and that too from a realized soul. Now, we'll go back to the story. Yamaraj, even though he was doing his duty, he was not able to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. What is this? I'm always doing my duty. When will I nourish myself? When will I hear Srimad Bhagavatam? When he had such a desire, immediately the Lord performed this pastime, and hence Yamaraj was born as Vidura, and this event happened, and he was able to meet this great Maitreyi Rishi, and he was able to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So that means to hear Srimad Bhagavatam is such a nectar, and it is such a rare thing. So whenever Srimad Bhagavatam is presented by great souls, we should not miss it, make it as our life and soul, and we should hear. See, even Mahajans could not hear Srimad Bhagavatam, that they had to go through such a great pastime and the austerity to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, look at the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. He's presented this to us in all languages, literatures, and enough commentaries he's given. If we don't give importance to this in our life, daily Srimad Bhagavatam in our life, then don't you think that we are missing the biggest point? Missing the real purpose of human life at all? What is the good of our family, our money, and all other opulence that we have? How does it go? In Kala, Krishna says in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, what does he say? I'll read the 11:32. Kalo asmi loko shaya krit pravrido lokan samahritum iha pravritaha. What does Krishna say? Time I am the great destroyer of the world, and I have come here to destroy all people. With the exception of you, the Pandavas, all the soldiers here on the both sides of the war will be slain. Krishna makes such a statement where he says, Kala is undefeatable, and by Kala, I not only kill people, I take away all their opulence, whatever they possessed. Family, money, wealth, name, fame, relationships, everything that they possessed, I take it away. So this is a very important point that we should understand. So This is our life. So our life is that we may, excuse Bhagavatam, but time will come that whatever activities we thought are higher importance than Srimad Bhagavatam will be taken away. And that is the biggest loss. And in the next birth, we do not know what sort of birth we will have. Even if we want, we will not be able to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Look at Yamaraj, great Mahajan. He had to really plead to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So that is what is important to understand in real life. Okay? So let's move forward. Here, there is a nice So now this is something that I want you to hear now. Let me highlight here. This one alone we will read here. Okay. So he was doing many of his activities. Now let's read this. Yeah. Please, someone read.
Hare Krishna. The Lord and his different authorized devotees sometimes have to play the role of many lower creatures to claim the conditioned souls. But both the Lord and his pure devotees are always in the transcendental position. When Yamaraja thus incarnated himself as Vidura, his post was officiated by Aryama, one of the many sons of Kashyapa and Aditi. The Adityas are sons of Aditi, and they are 12 Adityas. Aryama is one of the Aryama is one of the 12 Adityas, and therefore it was quite possible for him to take charge of the office of Yamaraj during his 100 years of absence in the form of Vidura. The conclusion is that Vidura was never a Sudra, but was greater than the purest type of Brahmana. Hare Krishna.
Purest type of Brahmana, right? So whenever we have such roles that we play, Lord makes arrangement to another set of people to play the role. So that is one thing. And second thing is, Vidura took this position of a Sudra for greater realization purpose. So the consciousness of Yamaraj is so pure, and Prabhupada concludes that he was greater than the purest type of Brahmana. Purest type of Brahmana. Okay. Now let's go to sloka number 16. Yudhisthiro labdha rajyo drishtva pautram kulan dharam vruthabi lokapala bhair mumude parayastriya. Translation. Having won his kingdom and observed the birth of one grandson competent to continue the noble tradition of his family, Maharaja Yudhishthir reigned peacefully and enjoyed uncommon opulence in cooperation with his younger brothers, who were all expert administrators to the common people, right? So this is, just telling that how Maharaj now Yudhishthir recouped after all the killings and all the difficulties that they faced, and now they are living in a comfortable situation. Their kingdom is there, no more Shatrus, and then they are trying to rebuild the capital, and there's no conflict of interest among the brothers, and things are all stable. So that means suddenly you see there is a pleasant situation in the life of the Pandavas. Now what happens whenever there is pleasant situation? We take life in a comfortable manner. We don't take austerities. We tend to become comfortable. We take it easy. So that's why in devotional life also it is said that when we become too opulent, when we have too many people around us to serve us, when we have many things that are systems that are working in order to take care of our comforts of life, then you see we get the tendency to forget Krishna. We take it easy. We don't get interest to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So a realized soul, irrespective of his opulent position, he does not fall for it. In turn, he spends his time as much as possible in service of the Lord and takes pleasure in serving the Vaishnavas. So that is the point to understand out of this sloka. Okay? Okay, now let's go to sloka number 17. Now 17 onwards, you see Vidura is going to give very, very strong statements to tell Dhritarashtra about the reality of life, right? And it's going to be really important for all the grihasthas and others to also hear from sloka 17 till 28 non-stop. The 17 to 28 is very powerful. It tells about various aspects of life and how time, prakriti, everything acts in a particular manner, and also karma, how it acts, right? So this is the guidance that Vidura is giving now. Now you see in the 16th sloka, everything was becoming comfortable. Everything was fine. And, situation was very conducive. So they were all relaxing. So now Vidura is coming and chastising. No, you can't do this. This is the point, right? So 17 onwards, there's a transition. Let's read it. Evam griheshu shaktanam pramattanam tat ihaya atyakramat avijñatah kala paramat dustaraha. Oh, now look at this. He's telling this eternal time is insurmountable. Insurmountable means it cannot be overcome. Why? Because Krishna is Kala, right? So let's see what is the translation. Insurmountable eternal time imperceptibly overcomes those who are too much attached to family affairs and are always engrossed in their thoughts. Krishna says, we just read that sloka also from 11.42. By time, Krishna first he declares, I am Kala. So when Krishna says, I am karma, karma is very powerful. It cannot be overcome. When Krishna says, I am Kala, time is very powerful. It cannot be overcome at all. Right? Prabhupada tells in his lecture that even if I pay millions of dollars, I cannot get back 1 second which I lost in my life. It's gone. That's all. So that is important to understand. Now, let's look at what the purport says. I am now happy. I have everything in order. My bank balance is quite enough. This is what our grihastha is thinking. Okay. I can now give my children enough estate. Estate means properties, lots of properties, buildings, and all those things. I am successful, both in my position, in the society, in the city. The poor beggar sannyasis depend on God, but they come to beg from me. That means we are thinking that, oh, I have made all this wealth and assets. I'm in a very comfortable position. And look at these sannyasis, what they have achieved. They come to me to beg. And it's my privilege. I'm proud about myself that I give some donation to them. Right? So he's thinking like he's God. Okay. Therefore, I am more than Supreme God. That is the consciousness of living entities. And this is the most dangerous situation. So there are some of the thoughts which engross the insane, attach the householder, who's blind in passing the eternal time. That means you keep taking a look at the watch, you'll see, okay, 1 second over, 2 seconds over. Okay, not much time is moving. But you just leave that watch down for some time and then come back, you'll see, oh, suddenly 1 hour gone, 2 hours gone. What I was doing? I lost my time. Right? So this is the power of eternal time. It completely illusionizes once and not even knowing that how he wastes his time. So a realized soul knows that I cannot waste my time. I have to use every minute of my time in service of the Lordship. And that is perfection in devotion. So now let's read this yellow highlight. Can someone read?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Our duration of life is measured and no one is able to enhance it even by a second against the scheduled time ordained by the Supreme Will. Such valuable time, especially for the human being, should be cautiously spent because even a second passed away imperceptibly cannot be replaced, even in exchange for thousands of golden coins amassed by the hard labor. Every second of human life is meant for making an ultimate solution to the problems of life. That is,
pause. Which is the problems of life? What Krishna is trying to tell here is that everything that is given in your life, every opportunity, every time factor should be used to solve your biggest problem. What's your biggest problem? Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi, birth, death, old age, and disease that can continuously occur for us in this material life. Yes, read Mataji.
Every second of human life is meant for making an ultimate solution to the problems of life. That is repetition of birth and death and revolving in the cycle of 84 lakh different species of life. The material body, which is subject to birth and death, diseases and old age, is the cause of all sufferings of the living being. Otherwise, The living being is eternal. He is never born, nor does he ever die. Foolish persons forget this problem. They do not know at all how to solve the problems of life, but become engrossed in temporary family affairs, not knowing that eternal time is passing away imperceptibly and that their measured duration of life is diminishing every second without any solution to the big problem, namely repetition of birth and death, disease and old age. This is called illusion. Thank you, Brother.
This is called illusion, right? So we think, okay, I'm still young, I'm still fit, I can carry on. We go and see the death of our uncles and aunts and everyone, but we still don't realize that I am also in the queue. So what I'm supposed to do? How much time do I have? Do I have lots of thousands of years? No. How much I have? I have a very short period of time. Why should I waste my time in doing those? We never realize that. And that is the cause of the problem. And that's what Prabhupada calls it as illusion. So we tend to forget. So Krishna gives remembrance and forgetfulness. He gives remembrance and forgetfulness in all aspects of our life. Let's go back to the pastime of Chitraketu Maharaj. What happened to life of Chitraketu Maharaj? He desired to have a son, and even though he was not destined, but by the mercy of Angira Muni, Chitraketu Maharaj was awarded a son. But when Angira Muni told that I am giving you this benediction, but however, remember, this benediction will leave you in distress or with suffering. Okay. Child was born, very healthy, beautiful child. But due to enviness of other queens and things like that, Yasamo killed the child. Okay, the child is dead. And then he could not tolerate it. Now what happened? He wanted to know why. I'm a good father. I want to take care of you. You're my here. Your duty is to serve me, and my duty is to take care of you. So you please come back. And then he goes back to Angira Muni and then request that I want my son back. So Angira Muni says, okay, I'll invite him. I'll invite that soul. Let us see what he has to say. Angira Muni, through his mystic power, he was able to invite that soul back. And what did the child soul body say? He said, in this birth, you may be my father and mother. In this birth, you may have many family members, wife, children, uncles, aunts, cousins, what it may be. But like that, I have had millions of life in the past. That means I have millions of parents, millions of uncles, aunts, millions of children. Then whom should I serve? Whom should I take care? There's no end and limit to this. So, maybe we are born in a family, maybe we are born to a parent, but that is a circumstantial situation given by the Lord. But our duty is to practice self-realization. Our duty is to practice Krishna Bhakti and perfect our life, because our relationship with our parents or family or anyone is temporary. For example, our wife. She came suddenly in our life one point in time. And while dying, it is not that we'll go die, live together and die together. No, one point in time we will die, and they will die after some point in time. That means, you see, it is so fragile in relationship. We came, together we met, we went away. Just like friends. That's all. But that we should not consider as eternal. What is eternal? Our relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is eternal. So, we should spend our life and time in self-realization, establishing our relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that should be the goal of our life. And that's what Vidura is trying to explain this here to Yudhishthira. Okay? You can read through the purport and
What's the meaning of insurmountable, you said, Prabhu?
Insurmountable means, Mataji, you cannot overcome it or achieve it. For example, let's say you go to the foothills of Himalayas, right? You stare at the mountain. You'll say, wow, it is too big. There's no way that I can easily cross over it, climb, and then go like that. Not possible to do it. That's what insurmountable means. Impossible to control it or go beyond it. Okay, Mataji?
Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah. Okay, we'll do this last sloka for the day. Very, very beautiful sloka this is. Okay. 13.18. Now, Vidura wants to address Dhritarashtra. What are you doing here? You must be ashamed of your position. You got humiliated. You lost the war even though you cheated. You tried to kill your own brother's son. Even before this, when in the initial stages also, when Yudhishthir came back, you should have given the kingdom to him. Hastinapur, and you should have walked out. You cheated away your Pandu sons, who's the natural heir of this kingdom, and you did not give it. That also you did wrong. So everywhere you did adharma. So Vidura wants to instruct Dhritarashtra. But his conversation is with Yudhishthir. Of course, Dhritarashtra is hearing. So now he is making this statement so generic for family members, but he is aiming his statement only to Dhritarashtra. But Yudhishthira, who is very, very refined and exalted in his devotion, is also taking this as an important aspect for him also. That is the glory of a devotee. And glory of a non-devotee, he will always think, oh, this is for them, not for me. Okay, so that's the sota. This sota is so beautiful. Okay. Vidurastat abhipritya Dhritarashtam abhashata rajan nirgamyatam shigram pashyedam bayam agatam. Mahatma Vidura knew all this. Therefore, he addressed Dhritarashtra, saying, my dear king, please get out of here immediately. Do not delay. Just see how fear has overtaken you. Okay, let's read this purport. Very nice purport.
I'll read, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Cruel death, cares for none, be he Dhritarashtra or even Maharaja Yudhishthira. Therefore, spiritually instruction was given to old Dhritarashtra was equally applicable to younger Maharaja Yudhishthira. As a matter of fact, everyone in the royal palace, including the king and his brothers and mother, was raptly attending the lectures, but it was known to Vidura and his instructions were especially meant for Dhritarashtra, who was too materialistic. The word Rajan is especially addressed to Dhritarashtra significantly. Dhritarashtra was the eldest son of his father, and therefore, according to law, he was to be installed on the throne of Hastinapura. But because he was blind from birth, he was disqualified from his rightful claim. But he could not forget the bereavement, and his disappointment was somewhat compensated after the death of Pandu, his younger brother. Hare Krishna.
So this is what happened to Dhritarashtra, right? Even though he was disqualified, the attachment of position and power was so intense that he could not let it go. But when he got an opportunity and Pandu Maharaj died, rather than giving the throne to his son Yudhishthira, he occupied the throne. And not only occupying the throne, he also cheated him. Sent him to Indraprastha, and also again cheated him by playing the dice game, took that also away, and he also plotted the plan to kill him. So this is what happens when we are too materialistic. We do any method or any means in order to achieve what we want to enjoy, be it power or position or any aspects of enjoyment. So all these things will lead to dangerous aspects of life. So that is why the more we stay away from material attachment, the better our life will be. Don't stay into position. If you're awarded, do it. Do it as a matter of duty for the pleasure of the moment. You should all become missionary in your activities. What does missionary means? The success of mission is the goal of my life. It's not about me. The mission could be a small house program, could be a small Bhakti Kutir center, could be a small temple or a big temple, or could be missionary activities like what Prabhupada talked about in managing bigger organizations and things like that. Spreading the cult of Krishna conscious movement. So, the biggest missionary activities we talked about in Esther and Chaitanya Charitamrita class is to spread the holy name, to teach the cult of Krishna conscious to as many people as possible, to give Krishna Bhakti to as many people as possible. That is missionary activities. Our grandfather did that, and we have a duty to execute that. So that should be the goal of our life, right? And by doing this, what we are trying to tell, tell my Lord, oh my Lord, I'm not attached to this material position or activities. I'm just staying here, doing these things as a matter of duty. But my real consciousness and goal in my life is to serve you and to please you, to spread your holy name to as many people as possible and get them also into the same platform. And that is called the real consciousness of bhakti. That's what Vidura is doing, right? So, all these stories and pastimes and great examples give us the superb meaning. How do we conduct ourselves in our life? Right? So, my Guru Maharaj always tells, devotees should plan their life very nicely. Right? When the time of retirement comes, they should have made enough financial backup plan. So, that is good enough. Enough financial plan means don't make it unlimited. Become practical. Okay, this much is enough and done. And secondly, attachment to family life and material life should slowly start to come down. All the time attending birthday parties, all the time attending this function, that club, this, that. Bhogeshwarya prasaktanam taya paharta chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhihi samadhavana bhidyate. Those who are attached too much involvement into material activities can never get the aspects of bhakti. We should slowly release them out of our consciousness. How we can release? The more and more Bhagavatam comes in our life, these things will slowly go away. All your circles of influence will shrink and it become circles of devotion. That will all happen. This is what is goal of life. So we should transform our life to all these things. So my Guru Maharaj used to say, plan your life nicely. Don't beg alms. Right? So when you need to retire, you need to retire and practice these things. This is the importance of life, nothing else. Slowly discharge your duties. From your duties also come down. Materialistic aspects also come down. And keep yourself situated in nice transcendental consciousness. Practice them nicely. If you don't plan, you cannot achieve this. You will see that until the last breath, you're signing checks and working and working and working. Okay? That will result into another birth. So Prabhupada gave this very famous statement. There was a person who had a very big rice mill. And it was producing lots and lots of rice. And then it was working 24 hours. And he was expanding like anything. And because of all these things, it was producing a lot of money. And he got attached to this rice mill. Got attached so much to his rice mill. So Prabhupada told in his lecture that because he's so much attached and working so hard in the rice mill, he'll be born as a rat in the next birth. In the same rice mill, go on and live there for a long period of time. Because he's so attached to it. Right? So similarly, we should release our attachment on material activities and get our attachment on transcendental activities. And that should be the goal of life. Okay? So I will end here. If there are any questions, we'll take it up. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Anand Prabhu here.
Dandashma.
Dandavad Pranam. It was a nice session, Prabhuji. I have one basic question, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Just now, this Ganesha festival has, this is not related to Bhagavatam or something. Just now, Ganesha festival is done. So, my daughter used to see the Bal Ganesha and all those episodes. And we also read that after Ganesha has born, so many God came there and gave him boon, different boons. So, and one of the boon was Lord Vishnu and Lakshmi both gave that any Shubha Karya we need to start. We start with it will be started with the puja of Lord Ganesh.
That's why it's called Vigneshwara.
Yeah, Vigneshwara, correct. So while going to kill the Tripura, Shiva also prayed Lord Ganesh, and that Vakritunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha, that shloka comes.
Yeah.
So how in our ISKCON, when we start the prayers, Adnyana Timaranas, before that, why we don't start with Sri Ganesha Nama or something like that? Or any book of ISKCON, I don't see any thing regarding Ganesha prayer. So,
Very simple, Prabhu. Ganesha is a Lord who's empowered to remove obstacles on the planes of material activities. Okay. So now let's say your health, or let's say you're starting a business activity, or let's say you're starting some family activity, you're building a house, any of these things, right? He is Vigna Vinashaka. That means he'll remove obstacles on the material plane. What is Srimad Bhagavatam? It chastises Kaitava Dharma. What is Kaitava Dharma? Dharma that is connected to this mind, body, material activities, and things like that. He doesn't propound that. He talks about Parodharma. What is Parodharma? Serve and love of Godhead. Now, that is not on a material plane. It is completely transcendental plane. Because it's transcendental plane, we don't reach Ganesha to ask him remove my obstacles, because he cannot. He can only remove material obstacles. He cannot remove spiritual obstacles. So what we do? We go to Lord Nrsimhadev. And Nrsimhadev can remove all the spiritual obstacles. Right? So Nrsimhadev, in the Shastras it is told that he is the god of all the 9 planetary systems. Okay. So you have a planetary, you know that, no? We have 9 planetary systems, and based on their position, our Amsha and Rashi both get determined. And according to that, our life get determined. Right? So now, if someone is not God conscious, his life is just based off his karma, which came out of his previous birth. That means it is controlled by Prakriti. It is controlled by Prakriti, which is manifested in the form of these 9 planets. Right? That's what you see in your horoscope. Now, the Lord of these 9 planets is the lotus feet of Lord Nrsimhadev. Now, logic is very simple. That's what Prabhupada says. You worship Nrsimhadev, these 9 planets will align for you automatically. How? For example, take an example of Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit Maharaj is a Jivatma. Right? But what is the specialty of the Jivatma? That even in his womb only, he saw the darshan of the Supreme Lord, Personality of God. Okay? So, when this person is devotion right from his birth, when he's about to be born, what happened to this planetary system? They all aligned to make his birth perfect. Right? So, hence, in the Kali Yuga, what has happened is we have come up with the Shastras has given what is called as Shamskaras. Right? So, for example, we have this festival where we perform Shoshantam and Srimantam for women. Right? Now, when we perform Shoshantam and Srimantam, what happens? The time of birth of the child and the health of the birth of the child, the health of the mother, they are all influenced by the planetary system. They influence in a favorable manner. Now look at it. These samskaras are aimed at pleasing Lord Vishnu. But what is the result? So this is how the connection is. So hence, anywhere in ISKCON philosophy, we only talk about transcendental subjects. We never talk about material subjects. And since Lord Ganesha, even though he is Vigneshwara, he works on the material plane, and hence his subject matter doesn't come.
okay, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes,
That
Prabhu.
was Pranam, Prabhu.
No,
Prabhu, the sinful people, when they go to Yamaloka, they are punished. But will they get reformed, Prabhu?
Yeah, punishment is not to kill, no? Punishment is to reform. So, for example, in today's government, why we have jails?
Yeah.
Jail is you go through difficult times, and when the difficult times are awarded to you, you will say, oh God, this is so suffering. I will never commit a crime again. I know the problems of committing a crime. So if they release me, I will never commit a crime. That means the person who is a criminal in his thought process, getting reformed, is becoming a good man. And that's the purpose of jail. Okay. Now, let's say that is not the purpose or the intent of the government. What they will do, you commit a crime, immediately take a gun, shoot him and kill him, finish him off. That's all. Right? So that's what the Lord also does. The Lord does finish off anyone. The Lord only reforms him. The Lord does reformation in 2 aspects. 1, while we are leading our life through the acts of the 3 modes of material nature, Lord keeps on reforming him. People who can realize this, they will change. But people who don't realize this, even after so much of difficult situations given in one life, they're sent to Yamaloka, and where Intense punishment is given to see if they can at least reform. Second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. The soul cannot be withered. The soul cannot be killed. The soul cannot be cut into pieces. The soul cannot be burnt by fire. That means there's no death for the soul. It is not the reformation of the consciousness of the soul. Right? So all our actions is about reformation, is not about capital or death punishment.
Prabhu, that means after punishment, Prabhu, there will be the material world people, they will again take birth.
Yes.
And they will have the future as per the karmic reactions.
Correct. So there are two things, right? Karmic reaction will continue to happen. Okay. But what does Yamaraj does? He would say, he will tell him, no, this is why the mistake you did. You practice Krishna Bhakti. You practice reformatory methods. Then you will see you will never come here. And in fact, he tells him, please don't come here at all. He begs the living entity who reaches the gates of Yamaraj, this should be your last punishment. I should never come back. You go back, get refined, and go back home back to God. And that's his begging appeal to all the people who enter Yamalok.
Very well. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavad Pranam.
Yes, Mother Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, while I was hearing from you about Vidura, I could just link it with Vibhishan. Could you just, like his life seems to be very analogous to the way Vidura led. So could you please enlighten or your comments, please?
See, just do a comparative analysis is here, the profound truth is that Yamaraj, even though he was doing his selfless service, he could not hear Srimad Bhagavatam, right? He had the desire. And so a role play was done that Yamaraj, out of his decision, he made a mistake and hence he gets cursed. In the curse, what happened? He heard 2 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. Completely realized. He nourished it and he practiced Krishna conscious like anything. Right? So Yamaraj's desire got fulfilled. Now let's look at Vibhishana. See, Vibhishana, even though he was with demons, and by birth also he is by a demon, but he was always Krishna conscious or Ram consciousness, right? He knew the position of Ram. He knew who he was. And he knew that even though his own brothers are his kith and kin blood relation, he knew what they did was also wrong. So he did 2 things, great things in his life. The first, he never got influenced by Ravana's ill mentality or any of the demons around him. He never got influenced, right? And second, he took the courage to always educate Ravan about his mistakes. He told him, what you're doing is wrong. You cannot do this, right? But Ravan was so much influenced, illusioned by his material thoughts of lust and greed to enjoy women, he could not take any instructions. So this is the problem. Krishna Bhakti must be given at an young age. If Krishna Bhakti is tried to induce at an older age, what happens? Bhakti Charu Maharaj talks about evolution of consciousness. Very beautifully he talks about. He says, see, you take a plant. The plant is so flexible, you bend the plant, it will bend. The stems, everything will bend. It won't break. Almost to the edge you can bend and it won't break. But a tree, which is the same plant which has become a tree, you try to bend a little bit, it will break. Externally, this is what you see, but internally also same thing. The consciousness of a child is so moldable, right? Whatever you tell the child, it will follow. But you go tell the consciousness of an elderly person, he will not follow. He'll fight with you. His false ego will manifest so much that he will not be ready to accept it. So this is a problem. So young age, internally, externally, it can be molded, but it cannot be molded beyond a certain point in time. So that's why practice of Krishna consciousness at an young age is very important. Now, Vibhishana, by his Ajnata Sukriti, somehow got this benediction of a devotion. So, Because the seed was sprouted in his heart when he's engaged, even at an older age, he was influenced by many, many wrong people and wrong things. He never changed. He was looking for an opportunity to surrender to the Supreme Lord. When an opportunity struck, he was very courageous. He didn't care for his life. He knew that he left Ravana will kill him. He knew that, but he still came and surrendered to Lord Ramchandra. Right? Ramchandra was so merciful. He did not see Ravana externally. Externally, his birth and the family of Asuras, that he is coming from, he is a brother of Lankeshwara who's kidnapped his wife. Ram did not see all those externals. He is always internal. That is the difference between Lord and others. When Vibhishana came and surrendered to Lord Ram, everyone opposed. Everyone in the army camp, they opposed. No, he's a spy. You cannot take him. He may cause, difficulties for us. It may be an arrangement of Ravan to send him. Like that, everyone spoke. But Ram said no. He accepted him as a disciple. And what all great things he did. I think first is, after Lankeshwara was won, Ram gave back that throne to Vibhishana and asked him to rule it. Okay? So he empowered him. Secondly, I also heard that Lord Ranganath, right, which was personally worshipped deities by Brahmaji, and it was descended and given to Lord Ram. Why? Because Brahmaji's worship was not fully satisfying and fulfilling to the heart of Lord Ram. So Lord Ram started to worship those deities, and he was also giving an exemplary, setting an example to the world how to practice devotion unto him. So this Sri Rangam, what we have, Ranganatha Swami, it was a personal worship deities of Lord Ram. Okay. Now what did he do? He gave those deities to Vibhishana to worship. Right? So there are lots of pastimes about the Lord dealing with his devotees in order to establish a certain aspects of Dharma and make realization of the consciousness of people. Right? So you see, no pastimes are same, but they are all done in order to deliver a message to us. And that's the story of Vidura, and that's the story of Vibhishana.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Okay. Okay, so that was
Hare
wonderful.
Krishna.
Yes, Mother. One last question. Yes, Mataji.
One just realization, Prabhu. I remember my mother-in-law who used to always have that Yama Stotram and Yama, and she used to tell us, you must read this every day. So now I can realize that he's a Mahajan and how much she was telling, and it's so nice, Prabhu. I just wanted to share it. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, that is good. But for you, chant Hare Krishna.
Prabhu?
For you, you chant Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu.
You surrender on to lotus feet of Krishna. Sarva dharman pariktaje mam ekam sharanam braja. That means you surrender to only one in personality, Supreme Person of Godhead, Sri Krishna.
Yes,
Okay.
Prabhu.
Now, how do you surrender to him? You surrender through his devotees. That's what you become, the servant of a servant of a servant of a servant of the Supreme Lord.
Yes,
Right?
Thank you.
We read that sloka yesterday. No, which sloka that we read? Aradhanam sarvesham.
Yes, Prabhu.
Vishnu Aradhanam Param.
Vishnu Aradhanam Param. Tadyanam Parataram Devi.
Samarcha.
What Samarchanam?
Samarchan. Yes.
What Samarchanam?
Tadiyanam, Devi Tadiyanam Samarchanam, Prabhu.
So what does it say? It says that worship of the devotees of the Lord is greater than the worship of Lord himself directly. But however, our acharyas, when we recite the sloka, Guru Ashtakam, Samsara Davana Ralida Loka, what does it say? It says, worship of the Supreme Lord, even though it must be worshipped through the mode of the Gopi Bhava, that's our Gaudiya Sampradaya, should be done parallelly. That means worship of Lord should happen, worship of the devotees of Lord also should happen, and they should happen parallelly. That is important, like a train track. Okay?
And she was also chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all for all your wonderful association. We had a beautiful morning. We discussed a lot of nectar, and I hope that these nectars are going to touch your heart and bring in transformation in your lives. Okay? Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai, Gurudev जय निताय प्रेमानंदे वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय वैष्णव श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय ओम तत्सत थैंक यू हरे कृष्णा
Dandavad
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, दंडवत प्रणाम।
हरे कृष्णा
Dandavat
Thank you,
pranam,
Prabhuji. Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna. Dandavad Pranam.
Hare
हरे
हरे
Krishna.
कृष्ण प्रभु दंडवत प्रणाम प्रभु
हरे
हरे
कृष्णा
कृष्ण प्रभु दंडवत
हरे
प्रणाम
कृष्ण
प्रभु
दंडवत प्रणाम प्रभु
हरे कृष्णा
हरे
हरे
कृष्ण
कृष्ण
प्रभु, दंडवत
दंडवत
प्रणाम।
प्रणाम प्रभु
Hare
हरे
Krishna, Dandavat pranam, Prabhuji.
हरे
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी दंडवत प्रणाम
कृष्णा दंडवत प्रणाम
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
दंडवत प्रणाम प्रभु।
Pranam
थैंक यू
Prabhu.
वेरी
Thank
मच।
you so much.
हरे कृष्णा दंडवत प्रणाम
Hare
we
Krishna.
missed you in yesterday's class Mataji
Prabhu, I was not okay, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
हरे कृष्णा
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु, दंडवत प्रणाम।
हरे
Thank
कृष्ण
you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavad Pranam.
हरे कृष्ण हरे कृष्ण
Hare
क्या
Krishna, Pranam Prabhu.
हरे
Very
कृष्णा
thought-provoking and hitting class, Prabhu.
Mataji
Especially for very thought-provoking and hitting class, especially for those who have not yet taken shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you so much.
Thank you Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
yeah I'll end the class here
Hare Krishna. Dandavad Pranam.
Hare Krishna Dhanashmi